You started running because it was a stress release, but over time, has it actually done that or has it added more stress to your day? That's going to be part of the conversation that we have today with my very special guest, Nora Gluch, who is the founder and owner of Mile After Mile Coaching. We will be talking about the resilience it takes to get into running and stay in running, but also what it means when running becomes a burden and how do we navigate those waters. Running can lead to burnout, as we all know. I've written about that myself. And so we're going to touch on that topic today throughout the time we have together with Nora. Plus, don't forget, stick to the end because we're going to talk about food. Welcome to Fireside Chat on the Everyday Athlete Podcast Network. You know the rules: subscribe, rate, review, blah, 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 blah. Let's bring Nora on and let's get to the meat of the conversation and why you're here in the first place. Nora, how are you?
Hi, I'm doing well. How are you?
I am fantastic. I'm super excited because it was maybe 2 months ago that I had posted a blog post about burnout, and you reached out to me to one, thank me for writing the post, which I appreciated, but two, that you wanted to talk about the idea of burnout in a more public manner because you felt, and as a coach, you probably see that it's not a topic that runners really want. It's almost like the third rail, right? For runners, like we don't want to touch that.
Yeah, it really resonated with me when I read it. And I know you did a couple of podcast episodes on that as well. So I wanted to kind of jump into that conversation. So I reached out. This is such a topic that I think it's people don't even realize it's happening until
Yeah.
it's too late. And so I think one of the things that I want us to talk about really is how do you get out in front of it, right? Like you don't want to wait until you have an injury or you're just over it. Like it's prevention and it's how do you get back to doing the thing you love and make it the thing you still love.
Perfect. So before we get started, I love to ask a simple question that most of the time elicits a great response. And so I'm going to ask you, who is Nora Gluch?
Oh, that's a tough one. No, no pressure.
None
Uh,
whatsoever.
um, wow. Okay, so I am a marine biologist by background. I'm a runner. Um, I am a business owner, and um, yeah, I don't know. That's a very deep question. Is that good
It's
enough?
it's your answer is great. And the reason why I asked that question 9 times out of 10 is it because it gives me and I believe the audience insight into who it is that they're listening to. Um, I also often find that there is an answer that is covered in recency bias. So were you recently doing something with marine biology, or did you just finish a run, or were you working on your business? And that is how those first three things came out of your mouth, as opposed to I'm a daughter or I'm an X or I'm a Y type of thing.
So I actually think for me it's a proportionality thing,
Okay.
right? So, most of my career has been in like marine, like I spend most of my time at my job, right? Like it's marine biology background, and that's gotten to me where I am in my career. So I think for me it's a proportionality. I also spend a lot of time running, thinking about running, talking about running, all of, all of those things. Um, and then obviously, the business that I'm working on is really important and near and dear to my heart.
Which came first, runner? So you doing it at a super young age, or marine biologist?
Um, Probably marine biology, actually. Yeah.
And
So
so, go ahead.
no, I was gonna say I went to graduate school and to get my degree in marine biology. I didn't start running until a little bit after that. So
What was the catalyst to get you to go to get your degree? I mean, marine biology. Like, what impacted you that you said, "I want to study this"?
well, so I mean, I think everyone, like everyone in my generation, at one point wanted to be a marine biologist. I'm pretty sure that's like a common, a common experience. Um, but I grew up in Florida and I loved like the Everglades. I loved the environment. I loved, manatees were my favorite animal. And we had moved away for many years. I went back to my parents moved back. I went back and kind of got back into that environment, the literal environment. And I
Yeah.
realized, oh, this is what resonates with me. This is what I love.
So then how did running come to be? What was the catalyst for you to say, I'm going to go buy a pair of running shoes and get started in this sport?
So I had a really good friend that I worked with who was very patient. She was like, "Hey, do you want to start running?" And I said, "Sure, I'd love to." And she built me up as a runner just the right way, right? She didn't try to take me out and run me 3 miles. We ran for 10 minutes, and that was it. And that was about all I could do. And she was really inspiring. She was a fantastic runner, still is. But the way she kind of nurtured me in that helped get me to really enjoy it, right? Because I think a lot of people find it so hard at the beginning,
Yes.
and just get so frustrated that they're like, "Oh, I hate running," and having someone that kind of shows you how to get to that love of running, I think is really important.
Why do you think we get frustrated, right? Like anything you do in life, right? The phrase practice makes perfect, right? Like, but somehow with running, we have this idea that because is it because we did it as kids, like we would run around the streets and the block or wherever you lived, and so we're like, oh, I can run. So I just put on a pair of running shoes, and then we find out like it's harder than what we recall it being like as a kid. Like, why do you think we feel like we should be experts at this thing that we haven't done for a lot of us for like ever?
Yeah, that's so interesting because it is one of the few things that you're like, well, shouldn't I just be good at this? Like,
Right.
I think it's partly because it is such a natural thing. Like you are everyone's sort of like a runner when they're younger, right? You run places like you see
Right.
toddlers running. Um, so I think it's just that kind of like, well, it's something we do. We should just be able to go out and run, which makes no sense. But like it is fascinating to me that because I have people that get like a month in, like I'm still not like able to run. Well, yeah, you shouldn't. You shouldn't. Like you, you just jumped into this. Like there's no reason that you should be running a half marathon after you've been running for a month and a half. So,
I'm
I
gonna
think
have to have you start incorporating Malcolm Gladwell into your coaching because my wife, Dr. Lori, and I were talking about it this morning about 10,000 hours, right?
Mhm.
Malcolm Gladwell says you become an expert after 10,000 hours of doing a thing. And so if you ran every hour for a month, you'd have a whopping 720 hours into this thing that Malcolm Gladwell says should take you 10,000 hours to become an expert at.
Well, yeah. I mean, and like your body just isn't all of a sudden. And I think that's the other thing is people are like, oh, I ran yesterday. Like today I should be better. Like
Yeah.
your body doesn't adapt that quickly, right? And this is, I mean, as you can, since my background's in science, I really like this is the part that's fascinating, right? Like, no, there's a process that your body has to go through. You can't speed it up. There's no
Yeah.
way to make
No.
it go faster.
Right. And that's the other part, right? I've been in this sport for 20 years. And I wouldn't say from the very beginning, but pretty close to the very beginning. I've always leaned into the idea of rest and recovery. And I think it's because the people I started training with in 2007 focused on that, right? They had been running for a number of years and they were like, look, you can't run every day and you have to take rest. And so I've taken it seriously my entire journey for 20 years. But if you don't know any better, you think that this is something that, okay, I ran 2 miles yesterday, I'll run 3 miles today. I ran 3 miles yesterday, I should run 4 miles today. Um, as a coach, like how do you break that mental cycle for those athletes?
I think, and this is one of the things that think is kind of common. Runners are we're driven people. You don't try to do this if you don't have that drive or that goal. Um, so I think it's hard for people to pull back, and there is that thing that happens in your brain where you're like, oh, I'm not working. And so what I always say is like rest and recovery are part of your training.
That's
They're
right.
not in competition with it. In fact, they are an essential piece of it. So if you skip that, it's the same thing as skipping a long run or it's even worse actually. But it's a part and parcel. It's not a separate thing. You're not slacking off. Like
Right.
your body is working while you're in that rest state, right? You can't see, like I'm using air quotes, so if you're on the podcast, you won't see it. But your body is really working when you're in that rest and recovery, probably harder than even when you're running.
Do you use a platform for your coaching business, like a Training Peaks or anything?
Yeah, I use Training Peaks.
Okay. And I use Training Peaks and I've used it for 20 years. When you're in Training Peaks, do you build in like a day off and literally like this is a day off, this should turn green? Like for those of you, let me start here. For those of you who are unfamiliar with Training Peaks, it essentially has 3 color codes. If you do the workout, it turns green. If you don't do the workout, it's red. And if you do some variation of the workout, it turns orange. It used to be yellow. And so I, as a coach as well, tell my athletes, I expect your Training Peaks to look like a Christmas tree. Some days you nail it. Some days you have to skip it because family obligations, whatever. And some days you just don't have it in you, so you don't hit and it turns orange. Like, but the question I want to ask is, do you also build in there like this is a time for rest and recovery? It's a full day off, like don't do anything kind of thing.
Yeah, I build in absolutely rest days. And I'll build in kind of lower key days, right? Okay,
Mm-hmm.
maybe this isn't a run day, but maybe this is a easy swim or yoga or something that's lower impact. I do tell people if you're used to walking, like if you have a dog and you walk your dog, you can walk your dog on a rest day, right? There's
Right.
kind of give or take, but yeah, to your point, like we are not machines. We should never have all of that green in Training Peaks ever.
Never.
Um, and I said, I would rather have you miss a workout, skip a workout, shorten a workout than do more.
It,
That's
it
never the right answer.
and it helps you avoid injury, right? Like this idea that, and there's the old adage, and I haven't seen it in a while though, right? Which is you have to have fuel in the tank to perform, right? A car needs fuel in the tank, so do we. And part of us gaining fuel in our tank is when we rest because our energy levels increase. But if you're constantly going out there, what's going to happen is bad form is going to occur because you're tired, overuse muscles. And so now you might have a strain or a pull that sidelines you for a lot longer than the one day prescribed as a rest day, right?
Right. And I have athletes and myself, I'm totally guilty of this. Like I am not great at just doing nothing, which is where you can get into some of the like, okay, take your dog for a walk, right? Like you don't have
Yeah.
to, when we say rest and recovery, it doesn't mean you have to lie on the couch eating bonbons, which by the way, you can totally do.
Yeah.
That is
I
fine.
like that.
But like if you're not that person, there is still a way to rest and recover that doesn't make you go a little, um, I don't know, I get like very nervous energy. So there's like a balance of how you do that. But that recovery piece should be real recovery,
Yeah.
um, regardless of what that looks like for you.
Yeah, my wife will say I've got ants in my pants, like I don't sit well. And so yesterday, Monday, is a rest day for me, and we went for a 30-minute walk around the neighborhood, and that allows me to use that excess energy that I have while not overtaxing my body. So that this afternoon I'm going to go run for an hour. I actually have rested and recovered because it wasn't an intense swim, bike, or run, and now I can go do the prescribed workout that will turn Training Peaks green as opposed to it turning orange because I didn't hit the paces or whatever I have built into my training plan. And I want to get this is a sort of a segue into this idea of injury because that has happened to you with this idea of I'm gonna push beyond the limit that I really should be pushing beyond. So if you don't mind sharing with the audience, like how this injury, what this injury was, and how it came about, and then we can talk about how we avoid that in the future.
Sure. So this early last year, it was a pretty broadly stressful year with my career. A lot of things were going on, a lot of uncertainty. And being the runner that I am, I thought the best way to deal with that was just to like really push on my running. So I was trying to do a PR half marathon build. So I was, it wasn't super high mileage, but it was intense mileage. I was doing a lot of intense kind of trying to build that speed work. I wasn't eating great, right? I was definitely under fueling. I was probably in low energy availability for a couple months. It was I wasn't sleeping great. because of all of those things, because of the stress, because of all of that, and just like pushing all of that, trying to be better and better at running. And I know better. I knew better at the time. I keep telling people, like, I saw the train coming. It was coming my way. I knew I wasn't doing it right, but this was like the one thing I had. This is the thing I had control over. And I ended up getting a metatarsal stress fracture, like on my long run. Didn't know exactly when it happened. Of course, finished that long run as one does when one is making poor choices all
Of
around.
course.
Um, and yeah, so I mean that that takes you out for a couple months. Um, and I know exactly what happened, right? It's easy in retrospect and hindsight to say, well, I should have pulled back. But when you're in it, right, and this is the thing that helps you, that you can focus on, that is so hard to overcome. And that's one of the things that really resonated with me when you were talking about that burnout piece of things.
So presumably earlier this year was not the first time you faced stress. So in your life, when you have faced stress before, did you use running as that opportunity to quote unquote run away from the stress as well?
Sure. I think I mean, I think that's so common with endurance athletes, right? I think that how often do you hear someone say like, "Oh, I need to go for a run.
Constantly.
I had like a really hard day at work, or I
Yep.
needed this run." So I think
We also justify that too, right? Because we often hear, well, I'm not drinking. I could have been drinking to get away from my life and to get away from my stress for a moment. So I'm doing the healthy thing and going for a run.
And and I think the kind of other side of the coin here is, right, there is a lot of benefit to that. It's, there's a lot of research showing that activity like that can help with your mental health, right? And that is truly a way that you can help reduce anxiety and help to manage depression. Like there's a lot of research on that. So, you're telling yourself, hey, like this is proven, this is science. At least that's how I think of it. I was, um, and so it's sort of this known of like everyone, "Oh, this is how you reduce stress." But the truth is it adds stress too. And I think we don't
Yeah.
realize the level of stress that sometimes we put on our body when we're training, because it
So
isn't.
when you talk about stress, are you talking about the physical stress or the other side of it? And maybe you're talking about both, which is the social media comparison stress, right? Because that's a real thing. Let's not kid ourselves. You can open up Instagram today. If you're in the running algorithm, you're going to see the people that you're following in the first 2 to 3 posts. Hey, I did this today. I did that today. And then the next 4 to 5 to 6 accounts you're going to see are going to be people who are runners. And so now this presence in your life is everybody's running, everybody's smiling, everybody's happy. I should be doing this too because that will help me relieve of this stress as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's been a really big change in the last, few years around running and how people see themselves as a runner. You see, you'll see people, oh, just a quick went out for a nice 12 miles at a 7-minute mile pace, easy peasy. You're like, oh, I'm doing this wrong, right? Like I just did 3 miles at my like 12-minute mile pace. And I think that that does add to that kind of how you perceive yourself too as a runner, right? So there's so many different types of stress that we come across. And what's really fascinating about that is, like, stress is stress, right? Like we think
Yes.
about, when we talk about stress, usually we think about like that mental, emotional, like, oh, I had this big project at work that I had to get good and I was working so hard. But really, there's so many different types of stress, and your body really experiences them very similarly. So your body's not like, oh, well, we're okay to run. Like we can't add any more over here, but like running is fine. Like we totally
Right.
have room for that. Your body kind of just accumulates that stress. And so you're not, yes, while running is in some ways helping you relieve the like the usually the mental piece of the stress, it doesn't resolve the bigger issue that we're falling into. And I think we tend to see, yeah, people on social media happy and, oh yeah, this is so fun. And it is, but
To a point.
yeah,
Yes.
there's another part of it.
It's so Maria Simone was my coach 15, 16 years ago. And this conversation had such an impact on me that I remember it verbatim to this day. And she would always have video calls with me once a month to check in. And she told me that it's not because I don't believe the words that you're writing to me in Training Peaks and your notes. It's that when I see you saying something to me, I can see it in your face versus what's being written. And she said to me, stress is stress, Jason. Like, your body doesn't know that you just ran 12 miles and you have that stress, or you have a big presentation coming up, or you lost the account from your sales team. Like, it just knows that you're under stress. And so you need to rest and recover so that you can be better for it in your life in general going forward. And I think that's something that, again, I don't think we talk enough about in the running spaces on social media, because there is this concept that the harder you train, the more you grind, and all of these concepts that are David Goggins-esque and born. And anybody who knows my platform knows that I do not subscribe to his thinking whatsoever. Because I do think it can get people into trouble, and we need to find a balance and stuff. That doesn't mean you don't work hard. It just means you don't work hard constantly. And I think that has gotten lost in some of this stuff. And I think the social media concept of another post of good, of good, of good, of good, of good. And you never really see the person who's like, well, today's run absolutely sucked, right? Like, nobody's like, I had a meeting at 12 p.m. and I struggled through it. And my kid was awake at 4 a.m. and I didn't have much sleep. And I ate Pop-Tarts for dinner because I didn't have time to make anything else. And the run absolutely sucked. Like, people don't post that stuff. Yeah. But that is the reality of what happens in real life, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think also, and I'm sure you've seen this as a coach as well, like, people, I have runners that apologize for, like, I couldn't do this whole workout. Mm-hmm. So, that's great. You, right. That is fantastic that you had to cut that short, and that you did cut it short. Actually, that's the most important part, right? And I think that it's, sometimes we see this as like a weakness of, I couldn't hit the pace, or I couldn't do the mileage, or like, this is somehow a failure on my part, rather than just an indication of everything else that's going on in your life. And I always say the best decision you can make is to not run or not do that next mile if you're not in a place to be able to.
Yeah, I have an athlete that I have been working with for, I think, 4 years now. And he sent me a text message this morning because I had him do mile repeats today. And he texted me this morning. He was like, dude, that was such a hard workout. Thank you. And I said, good, because now tomorrow you get to rest, because today was such a hard workout, which means you cannot do anything, dude. Like, if you want to walk with your wife, that's cool, but that's it. Like, you need to rest going for the whole day tomorrow, that is. And I think it's important that athletes feel comfortable in talking to their coaches. So like in your case, like, your athletes need to know that Nora is not going to come down on them with the power of 1,000 stones when they say, hey, I had to cut this short, or I couldn't do this at all because X happened. Like, life happens.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I think that's kind of one of the things. It's, running can be running can be consuming, right? Like, especially if you're doing something like marathons or ultra marathons where it's hours, it's so much food. Which I know we're excited to talk about later. But I mean, it does sometimes seem all consuming, but like, let's be honest, none of us are professional runners. At least right. I'm not. And it's supposed to be fun, right? And not every run. I always tell my athletes, look, I'm never going to tell you that every run should be fun, because that would be a lie.
Right.
But running is supposed to be something that you enjoy, right? It should be something that is a positive in your life. And I think the problem is when sometimes we get so caught up in it, it becomes this detrimental thing, or it becomes an additional burden. And I think that's that tipping point you've talked about burnout, right? Where you're like, ooh, this is getting into like an impediment.
Yeah, I live in the desert. It's going to be 100 degrees. It's not going to be fun. Like, I know that. I can have ice bandanas and I can have the coldest flasks. And I know it's going to be hard because it's 100 degrees. But but I prepare myself as best I can for the weather that I'm facing. And when it's done, right? Like I do my best, and I do this with my athletes too. And I'd love to get your take on this is like, don't obsess over the data, right? Like we could look at data and find the one point in the run that was horrible, right? And then obsess over it and ignore the other 99% of the run that was fantastic. And so when you're working with your athletes, how deep do they get into their own data? And do you have to sometimes pull the reins back on them and be like, I'm begging you, don't look at anything today. Let me handle it.
So I think, yeah, it depends on the person, right? Some people are
Yeah.
like the data people and some people aren't. I think one of the things I see a lot is people are obsessed about pace.
Yes.
And right now, as we get at least in the Northern Hemisphere here, we get into some pretty toasty weather. We had that huge heat dome on the East Coast this week, which was horrific. But, as we get into that, your pace should slow down. It will slow down, and that is good.
Yeah.
And I think people really get caught up in like, oh, I was slower on my run today, or I did that. Like, there's a huge perception around what pace means and what we should be doing. And, I tell people like you have an idea of what you think your pace should be, and it's probably wrong.
How is that received? Well,
I don't think they always believe me. I did have one athlete who, I'm always like, okay, you need to run like, let's really talk about what easy pace means and easy pace. And this person was just did a race for fun with friends and ended up running like, and she was like, oh, I understand now what you meant by easy pace. She's like, that was fun. And I was like, yeah, this is what I've been telling you.
I find myself with some of the conversations I have with the athletes I work with is when I tell you conversational pace, I don't mean internal conversation because we can all do that. I'm asking you to actually speak out loud. You might look crazy to the person walking next to you. That's okay.
Mhm.
If you can't like get the words out of your mouth, you are not at a conversational pace and you need to slow down.
Yeah, I think there's kind of real, and this is like a runner identity thing, right? There's a real identity around pace,
Yeah.
it goes back to that pushing, like more is good, and we got to push through pain, push through everything. Which, I mean, we're runners, so like some of that's normal, but also that's really where we get into trouble. And I think it's all tied up in that whole package of like that runner identity.
How do you deflect your athletes from, I want to run again, I want to run more, when you know that, like, for example, they've run 3 out of the last 4 days, they need a rest day? How do you deflect it? Do you push them into like, hey, go for a walk? Do you put them on a bike, spin bike, super easy, swimming? Like, how do you get them into other things where cross training becomes a benefit and it doesn't become detrimental because now all of a sudden they want to become the world's best swimmer and the world's best cyclist?
Yeah, I'm a big proponent of either walking, or if some people really like, so for me, I love swimming as a really good complement to running.
Same.
It's amazing. Not everyone has access to a pool, not everyone
Correct.
likes swimming. So, but if I had my druthers, that would be, to me, that it's such, you have the elongation of the muscles. It's so much less impact. I think it's great. But not everyone has access. So I do like walking, or even yoga. Some people really like that kind of, that piece of with the stretching and everything. So just having something else that is a little bit of a different movement for the body, because running is really actually like pretty like you're on the same plane
Yes.
all the time.
Yep.
And so trying to find something that takes you out of that, that doesn't include additional impact, doesn't really stress your muscles, is how I like to try to focus my athletes.
That's one of the reasons why I try to get the athletes I work with on dirt as much as I possibly can, because you're not only just going in the vertical plane, but you're also going in the horizontal plane, because rocks and roots don't care that you're running there. They're in those spaces, and so you need to avoid them. and I'm a huge fan of swimming, and I do know, like, right, not everybody has access to a pool. But I will tell you this, I had one athlete who had access to a pool. He had a really hard week. And my training plan for him on one of the days was grab a beer and walk around the pool. That's it. Like, go enjoy yourself with the beer and walk around the pool. You've had a hard week. This will allow you to get some movement in without feeling like you need to be the best at walking. Like, I don't want you to get into the walk Olympics now, because I know that that's how our mindset can work sometimes. Like, I was laughing when you were talking about yoga, because when I started getting into yoga, I wanted to win at yoga, right?
Yeah, the best yoga ever.
Right. I was like, I'm going to get into the deepest stretch that anybody has ever seen in this class. And it's like, what are you doing, man? You're going to just hurt yourself.
One of the things that I do like to kind of encourage my athletes is to maybe, if they're going for an easier workout or like a run or something, and I really need them to do truly recovery, is go with someone who doesn't do the same pace or mileage as you.
Yeah.
Right. It's a really great, and you get to be social. And it forces you to kind of think differently, right? It's not about pushing yourself. It's about that social interaction. And also about, it kind of takes away that, whatever that stigma is that people have, or that inability to like slow down your pace yourself. You have kind of someone else there that you can go with.
I'm internally laughing because years ago, a friend of mine, his nickname was Goat, and he's passed, but he was one of my favorite people to ride bikes with, and his nickname was Goat because he could climb on a bike like nobody's business. And he helped me go from averaging 16, 17 miles an hour on the bike to 20 miles an hour on the bike. And so I'm laughing internally because I'm thinking to myself, if Nora was my coach and she said, go ride with somebody, I would want to go ride with Goat because of the social aspect. And we always talk. But then at some point there would be the competitiveness when I'm seeing him pull away climbing the hill and be like, okay, Coach Nora said I had to dial it back. And Jeff keeps getting further and further away. So if you're working with Coach Nora, you're going to have to submit the people that you're working with and who you can run with, so she can tell you.
The vetting process.
Oh, on a day like today, I need you to work harder. Go with Jeff. He's going to work you hard. And on a day like today, where I need you to go easy, I'm going to need you to go with Joe because he's not going to work you as hard.
Well, I mean, and that's like the beauty of different run groups. So I don't know if you run, I'm assuming you run with run groups or training groups at different times, but you have the people like the track workouts, right? Those are very specific. But sometimes you can find a group where it's the social group. So, my local run club here, it's very much about the community, and it's very much about just us chatting as we run along. So it's a really great opportunity to get those miles in, interface with your local run community. And really for me, it's not pushing the pace. It forces me to, it's probably the slowest I run all week. And it's great. So there's sort of that kind of dynamic as well.
I had started a run club when I lived in Dallas, Texas, and we had 3 leaders. And every Saturday we would meet at the trail and we would run, and we rotated. So you'd have one person in the front who would go with the faster people in the club. You'd have one person in the middle who would be mid-pack, right? And then you'd have one person in the back of the pack, so that it was social, right? It became a social aspect so that the people that were in the middle and the back didn't feel like I came to this run club and everybody's pulling away from me. And we rotated so that each one of us also got to meet members of the club. And I think like that, when you do that, you start to realize like, I can run easy. I don't have to run everything at a breakneck pace, and I can meet new people and I can hang out with new people. And all of a sudden running has a greater purpose than just miles and paces. And I think that's the beauty of our sport, if we allow it to become the beauty of our sport.
Yeah, I love that. It's that allowing it to be more than hitting your PRs. And I think sometimes we forget that.
We do, right? And it's interesting. And I've thought about this for so long now, especially as our Everyday Athlete Clubhouse continues to add more and more members. My experience, again, I've been doing this for 20 years. And so my perspective through that experience has changed, right? When I first started running, I need a half marathon PR. I need a marathon PR. I wanted to break 4 hours at the Ironman marathon. I wanted to break 19 hours at the 100-mile distance. And now it's, I want to do this type of terrain because I haven't done it before. I want to run in this part of the country because I've never run there before. And perspective has changed, which allows running to be fun again, because it is different. It's not just chasing the PR or the pace kind of thing.
And I would say, one, those two goals too aren't antithetical, right? You can try to PR and still have fun. I mean, there was one marathon cycle I was like head down, crazy, and actually my husband was like, I just need to know if this is how it's gonna be every time. He's like, I can deal with it, but I was like, okay, I can't do this. I can't. Like, I was so restrictive, and I had a good time. I PR'd, but I didn't hit my goal. Like it was a lot. And the next couple marathon cycles I did, I kind of let that go, and I had more fun. I worked hard, right? But I had way more fun. I enjoyed it, and I did way better.
Yeah.
And I think that actually there's something there of like, one, your goals don't have to. That's why I tell people, you don't have to PR. You don't have to run farther. Like, your goals can be different, and that is great. But it doesn't have to be either or. You should be having fun. If you're like, I always tell people, if you're going to train for a marathon, I know people will do like just to see if they can, but if you're going to train for more than one marathon, you need to enjoy the training, because the training is, between 3 to 5 months, depending on how long you're building. And that's a long time to do something you're not enjoying.
Correct.
For, between the 3 to 6 hours, right? Like, and so if you're really gonna do something where you're training for a longer race like that, you got to enjoy the training part.
I couldn't agree more. And I'll ask you this as a follow-up. I remember training for the qualify for Boston. And it was the first year they had the race in Las Vegas, and it was on the Strip at night. And so like I'm running at night to see how my body feels after doing whatever you do all day, and the interval work. And Nora, I absolutely hated every bit of that training. When I got to race day, within the first 2 miles, I knew I wasn't going to qualify for Boston. And I think the qualifying time was 3:15, and I ran a 3:31. So I was way off. And when I got to mile 22, like, everything hurt. And I crossed the finish line. I was in tears. And I was like, I'm never doing this again. And I didn't run a single standalone marathon for 14 years from that point, because it just was not enjoyable. I ran a 3:31, right? Like, I ran the fastest marathon I'd ever run. And yet in that moment, I was like, I'm never doing this again, because that training for all of those months was just not enjoyable. And I think there's a lesson to be learned there for people, right? Like, you should really enjoy it and do it for your enjoyment, not because the internet tells you everybody's running Boston.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's so many of these kind of things that we think we should do as runners, right? And there's we have to qualify for, or we have to go run Boston, right? So I'm actually having this debate about whether I actually want to run Boston. I qualified. I have enough of a buffer. I'm not worried about that. But like, I don't actually know if I want to, right?
Interesting.
But everyone's like, you have to, right? It's the iconic race. And I think that, we see on social media, or these like bucket list things that everyone thinks you should do. Like, oh, if you've run a half, well, next year you have got to run a marathon. Well, not everyone should or wants to. Maybe like 5Ks are your jam, and that's where you want to stick. Like, have at it. Maybe you just want to run for fun. You don't even have to race, right? Like, and sometimes I set my athletes goals that are not paces or not race or distance, or like sometimes they're just, hey, like, take a cool picture and text it to me on your run.
Oh, that's cool.
That's your goal for this. That's your goal for this run. I don't want you to worry about anything else.
That's a great way to distract them too, right? Because now they're no longer looking at their watch. They're just running, looking for the cool setting to take a picture of. That's a great idea.
Yeah. So sometimes your goals just need to be different, because again, you can't focus intensely for every, that's the whole point of periodization. It's how you build it from a physical standpoint, but that's so true from a mental standpoint too.
I've always said that if I was to ever qualify for Boston or go and race Boston, I would enjoy the moment. And so if well, let's make a number up. If I knew I could run a 4-hour marathon, I would run that marathon in 5 hours because I would just like take pictures and do all the things of enjoying the course. So I want to go back to your arm wrestling. Are you arm wrestling this idea of not doing Boston because your mindset is I would want to be competitive and so I wouldn't enjoy it, or the opposite? I would just go and enjoy it so much that it wouldn't be competitive. Like where's the arm wrestling for you?
So for me, it's I don't like big races.
Okay.
Right. I don't like logistics. I like,
Yep.
I enjoy the smaller, like the mid-sized to smaller races. I am competitive. I'm not going to lie. It's hard. So I would definitely be like, there's very few times I would probably not be running for a time. I'm working on that. Even though I'm a coach, I am still imperfect.
Yes. You're human.
So, I don't know if I would like it. That's really what it comes down to is I don't need the crowd. Like I'm not a crowds person, right? Like I know a lot of people get energy from the crowds and really dig on like that piece of it, but I don't necessarily need that for my races. It's not something that I'm into. But I know we've talked about like the Pittsburgh Marathon where you're running through the city and like it's different neighborhoods and different iconic. Like that to me is and I'm from Pittsburgh, so I have that touchstone, and like that to me sounds a lot more enticing than something like a massive Boston.
Yeah. And the irony is that Pittsburgh had 53,000 runners this year. Like I had no idea that it was that big of an event. A month or so prior to that, we ran the Oakland Marathon, and Oakland had 11,000 runners, which also surprised me. But the thing about the Oakland Marathon is that 10,000 of those runners are half marathon and less, and there's only about 1,000 marathoners that are running it. So you do end up out there. I wouldn't say you're alone, but you end up out there, in moments where there aren't as many people. Whereas when I ran Pittsburgh, there were always people. No matter where we went, there was always an audience around you to help you out. But it never felt like it was enclosing on you, right? It never felt like the walls were moving in on you and everybody was on top of you, other than the first mile, because you're running in downtown. And so before you get out of that area, you're like on one single street. And it's like a corridor. And so once you get out of that, though, it opens up and it's fantastic. So it's interesting to think that 53,000 runners it's not small by any means, but it's an event that you would run because one, it's comfort for you. It's hometown.
Yeah. I think that's part of it too, right? It's like, why you run a race or why you want to do something. Everyone has different motivations. And so what speaks to you is different. Like I said, I like the smaller races. I actually have been in some races, some marathons where there were parts where there were really no other people around. And that is not for everyone. I get it, right? Like I am like heads down, goal oriented, but other people would hate that. And they loved like the Boston and the crowds and all of that. So there's something for everyone in running.
If you can recall, what's been the best race, regardless of distance, that you've run and or performance? Like what's the race that you were like, man, that was special?
Oh, that's a tough one. I ran the Newport News Marathon early this year. And it's a small race. There weren't very many people, but there were two women that I ran with for about half of the race. And I've never run like a marathon or anything like that with other people. And it wasn't like we planned it.
Okay.
We were kind of in the same pace group, and we sort of ended up, we were all about the same pace for a while. And I have never like had that experience before. As you can tell, I'm like more of a solo runner generally. And it was just fantastic to have kind of that all of a sudden like built-in best friend support, right? Like I still talk to one of them on Instagram.
Oh, that's cool.
Because it was just such a unique experience. And I think it helped me, I think, get the time that I had. And it really was a unique kind of thing I've never had before. So I really enjoyed that.
It's amazing how life can be similar story yet different outcomes. So I lived in Texas at the time. We were running a half marathon in McKinney, Texas. It was pouring out, and I was running with a friend at the time. And all of a sudden, we heard like this slap of these feet behind us, and I was like, "This is bothering me to no end." Like, just the slapping of the feet with the splashing of the water. So I look at my buddy on, and I was like, gesturing like, let's pick up the pace. And so I figured if we pick up the pace, maybe we could drop this person. They wouldn't hear their feet. But of course, we start running faster, and so the slap got faster too. Whereas in your experience, like you had best friends, you're still
Yeah.
talking to them on Instagram. You just never know what you're gonna get when you're out on the race course, for sure.
That's right. I mean, there have been times where my I definitely PR'd because I was trying to get away from someone. That has also happened.
I love it. See, folks, this is the beauty of running, right? Like, I know when you look at social media, everybody looks like they're doing the exact same thing, but my goodness, we're all so different in our reactions to things, how things transpire. I will tell you, I raced a 100 miler at Lake Martin in Alabama, and it was just an absolute horrendous course. It was so hilly. It was raining. It was mud. It was awful. And at one point, I was laughing so hard, and I have a very distinct laugh, that there was a young lady racing with us, and her name is Colleen. And she said, "I'm so happy that I got to see you in the daylight and hear that laugh, so that when midnight falls or 1 a.m. falls, I know that's not a pack of wolves chasing me." And I still talk to Colleen to this day every now and again on social media when I see her. So you just don't know who you're going to meet and under what circumstances. And I think that's what also makes running so beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah, it's and everyone has their own journey and like their own thing that they love about running, and it's different for everyone, right? How they approach it, what they want out of it, everything.
Yeah. So like when you're with an athlete and you're talking to an athlete, and you do intake and you get them set up, and life changes, right? People get new jobs, family come and go, whatever. How often are you talking to your athletes and working with them on life outside of running? Because as you're programming their training plan, that's going to take, it's going to be a part of your decision making process too.
Yeah, I mean, I try to talk to my athletes kind of every few weeks, generally, what's going on, what else is going on. And one of the things that I always try to because some athletes are more forthcoming, some people want to talk about all the stuff that's going on, some people are like, let's just talk about running. And I was like, okay, but we also have to talk about other stuff because it matters.
Yeah.
And I see this a lot where especially if someone gets a niggle, like, and they're like, my hip was bothering me, my calf was bothering me. You start pulling that thread, and you realize, because one, I know what they've been running, right? And I know
Right.
often I know what type of strength training they're doing, if I'm programming that for them. And like, as you pull the thread, you're like, well, what else is going on? Or sometimes one of the things that happens a lot is, people, like, you see their sleep.
Yeah.
And sometimes I will write them a note and say, I see that you have had a rough week. I am going to pull back on your long run this week because you need to sleep.
Yep.
Right? Like, there's something else going on I may not know, or I'll email them, or I'll reach out to them on Training Peaks of like, hey, I am seeing something here, right? Like, you see those data and you're like, something is happening. What do we need to do to fix this?
Yeah.
And so I think, it's kind of both of those. It's that proactive piece, but it's also the kind of like, when we see the data, we know that there's something else going on. And most oftentimes, like, a lot of the things that people, again, we talked about, like, people don't realize are impacting their run, and how they're, the reason that they aren't feeling as well, or they're not hitting their paces, it has nothing to do with their running. It has everything to do with, oh, hey, their like kid was sick and they were up all night. Or the other thing is nutrition. We haven't even touched on that really, but that's such a huge component, especially as you get into a higher distance, that people I think don't realize how important that is, and not just the run fuel, right? Like,
Right.
yes,
Yes.
fueling a run is important, but like, I think you must have seen that study from the like 2024 about the Boston Marathon finishers, right? It was like almost almost 40% of women were in a low energy availability, and I think
Yeah.
like 20% of men. Like, that's huge. And that's just one race. And I think we, as endurance athletes, right, we have a very specific way we need to fuel that's different than a lot of the broader guidance, and people just don't even realize how much
Yep.
they need to be eating, and like those carbs, they matter a lot more.
Yeah. And then everything trickles down from there too, right? You're not eating
Mhm.
well enough for the training, which then leads to not sleeping well enough, which then adds to the stress, which then, as we opened up the show, which is I'm running as a stress release, which, if you're going through all of these complications and ups and downs, might lead to a stress fracture at some point, and not the stress release, which is just going to end up building on top of itself too, right? It's one of the things I love to think about as athletes, right? We are not compartmentalized. Like, we are one silo. We're not multiple silos, right? So stress comes in from work, stress comes in from family. It's all going into the same bucket.
Mhm.
What you're eating during your marathon training, what you're eating outside of your marathon training, it's all going into one bucket. And somehow we have gotten to this place where, well, I'm eating properly for my training, but then you're not doing all the other stuff that you also need to do for your training: sleeping, mobility work, all these other. And I get it. It takes a lot of time. It really, really does.
That's
Um, but if you don't do the little things, a big thing in the negative aspect is going to occur.
Mhm. Yeah, and I think that it is interesting to watch kind of what tends to fall off first. I don't know if you've seen this. I don't know what you see in your athletes, but I tend to see sleep. Sleep is the first thing to go, right?
Yep.
People take their time out from somewhere. It's almost always sleep. I don't know if that's been your experience.
It typically is. And to your point, like, because in Training Peaks, you can see hours slept. I make it a point to bring that to their attention, especially when they say, "Oh, I didn't get to my workout today," or "The workout didn't go as I had hoped today." First place I go is sleep. Okay, let me take a look at that. What does that number look like? And then we start working backwards into the nutrition game, and then
Mhm.
what's family, kids, work, and all of that stuff. Because, and the other thing I want to emphasize to them is, you are a whole person. You're not the runner person. You're not the parent person. You're not the friend person. You're not the child to your parents person, right? Like, you are a whole person. And so let's talk about the pieces that are disjointed that we can address. And if that means taking a rest from running for a day or even a week, then let's do that. So, like, I build in, to your point, periodization earlier, like 3 weeks on, 1 week off. And they know during that 1 week, they're still going to run, but there's going to be no intensity whatsoever. You do everything easy, conversational. And if it's an hour and you do 45 minutes, I'm still going to clap for you.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, because I think that you're right. Like, we tend to think of our running life and like the rest of our life separately, and like, you know, sure, you have to fit them together from a time perspective, but really, it's all just like a continuation. And
Right.
so I think every time we try to parse out all of these different pieces, we miss the big picture. And the big picture is where you really get in trouble. If you're not looking at all of those pieces together, there's going to be gaps, because you mentioned, like, you could be doing each thing the way you're supposed to, and still it's too much
Right.
because you haven't looked at everything together, right? It's sort of that fallacy of like, oh, well, if I just hit it, the sum of the whole is different than just the sum of the pieces, right? Like, it's looks the big picture is just as important as what each piece looks like.
And it's one of the reasons why I wanted to start the series of conversations that we have had on our platform about burnout, because oftentimes, to what you said earlier, I'm going to go back to the stress release of running. And then before you know it, you hate it. Like everything about it just sucks. You look at your running shoes and you're like, oh man, you look at the laundry and like, I got to do more laundry. Like everything just starts to pile on to itself. And that's a moment where you should press the pause button. If you're working with a coach, talk to that coach. If you're not working with a coach, but you're in a run club or you have friends on social media, like start talking to them. And I'm begging you, don't be embarrassed about the conversations. Not everything is utopia. And I can guarantee you that the person you open up to is going to be like, yeah, I've been feeling that way too.
Mhm. Yeah, I think that that's something that we all think that everyone else is doing everything right and it's perfect
Right.
and like they are hitting all of I don't know a runner who hasn't gone through a time where they're like, "Oh my God, this is too much," or "This is becoming a burden. This is becoming something I don't," and like everyone has that at different times.
Yep.
And I think that there's this, like, I go back to that identity thing. We think that that means that we are somehow not a good runner or there's some problem or we're not doing things right. And the truth is, it's just life.
Right.
There are different kind of times of your life where things are going to be different. You know, what my life looked like 15 years ago is very different than what my life looks like now. And part of that is making sure that I'm adjusting everything to be the person that I need to be to keep running.
Yeah. Like the month of June for me, I think I ran 50, maybe 60 miles, maybe less in all of June, despite the San Francisco Marathon coming up at the end of July. But we were moving and trying to pack and get everything from LA to Phoenix. Like running became secondary or tertiary in some instances where it was just like, I'm not doing it. And adding to the stress of my life of running a business, deliverables to marketing partners, coaching, I teach at the college level. Like running became the thing that was the easiest to push to the side in that moment because everything else had to be handled. And now that we've gotten settled, I've run, normal training plans, mileage is back up to normal and things are good. And look, I have no illusions of grandeur that I'm going to run a 3:30 at San Francisco. It's just not going to happen. And I'm going to go do my best and have fun and enjoy the run. And the next race will be the race that I can focus on because life will be different then too, right? Like that's just the way this works.
Yeah, every race doesn't have to be your best race ever.
Right. Yes. Thank you. Louder for those in the back.
And I think that's really hard with marathons, because you train for so long. But the truth is, like, that should, as we talked about, that should be part of the fun, right?
Yeah.
And every kind of goal, every race is different over different times, and sometimes maybe you just want to adjust what those goals are for where you are. Um, this is a long game.
That's it. This is a long game. And it doesn't mean that you're any less than. It happens. It's part of life. I tell people constantly, if you want to run into your 70s and 80s, you have to do the things that are necessary to run in your 70s and 80s today.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can't wait until you're 70 and 80 to start doing the things that will get you running. And you have to start now so that you can, to your point, play the long game and be doing this stuff into your 70s and 80s. My sister told me today that she has started recently going to the gym, and there's a 96-year-old man there that gets on his bike at the gym and he pedals, and every now and again he'll befriend her and talk to her and ask her questions and stuff like that. And she's like, I want to be like him when I'm 96. And I'm like, yeah, doing the things that you're doing today will help you become that 90. You're not going to wake up on the day you turn 96 and be like, I'm going to start going to the gym now.
Yeah. And I think, what's really back to kind of bringing this all together where we think about those things that keep you in 96 running. It's not running every day. It's not pushing harder. It's not higher mileage.
Right.
It's making the smart decisions. And sometimes those smart decisions are pulling back a little. Sometimes it's doing more, right? Like there are different times where you need different things, but what you need in that particular instance is going to set you up. And sometimes maybe that's just, having a couple months where you pull back on your running because you have too many other things going on.
That's right.
Doesn't make you less of a runner. It just makes you, setting
Human.
yourself up for success.
Life.
Yeah.
Nora, I appreciate your time. We are running up on the end of the show, but I always want to touch on some food questions because I love food and I love having conversations. And I think the first time I came across your account, you were talking about eating a dozen or 13 bagels. So I know this is an idea. But before we get to those, where can people find you? How can they get in touch with you? We'll have it on the show, but we'll put it in the show notes. Where can they get in touch with you?
Yeah, so I'm on Instagram at mile_after_mile. And I have a website, mileaftermile.co. It's just CO because all the good ones were taken. And yeah, and you can just email me directly at nora@mileaftermile.co as well.
Awesome. So we'll jump into the food scenario here. First question, pineapple on pizza, yay or nay?
No, definitely not.
Definitely not. Adamant no.
No, I am a very much your sweet food over here and your savory food over here, and never the two should meet.
What's the go-to topping on pizza, if any topping at all for you?
I like spinach and mushrooms.
Yes. I knew I liked you. Not that it wasn't just the 13 bagels. It's now also spinach and mushroom on pizza.
I did eat those 13 bagels, though. I was very proud of myself.
By the way, she didn't just do it to do it. She was she was leading up to her race.
No, that was a carb load.
Getting her carb loading in.
I could be convinced otherwise.
Yeah, I mean it's bagels. Let's be honest. Favorite type of bagel?
Everything.
Butter, cream cheese.
Well, so for carb loads, I would just hose them down plain. I'm always just. I got to tell you, carb loading is one of my favorite things. It's probably why I race marathons. But yeah. Otherwise, I do cream cheese. But sometimes, especially if they're fresh and hot, just eat them down.
Plain cream cheese or a specialty type of cream cheese?
I do like just plain cream cheese.
I'm a scallion guy. I love scallion cream cheese.
I like to let the bagel shine.
It's the lead actress in this show. Favorite non-chocolate candy is?
That's a tough one. You think I would have that answer ready? I do like Skittles.
Skittles are great. Just don't mix them up with the M&Ms.
No, they're different flavor. But I like the assortment. You get options, right?
Yep. Favorite chocolate candy is?
Ooh. Maybe Snickers.
Oh, that's a good call. It's hard to beat a Snickers.
It is hard to beat a Snickers.
Favorite type of ice cream? Favorite flavor of ice cream?
Mint chocolate chip.
Yes. Green or white, or do you not care?
So I don't care, but I feel like it's really green, but I feel like it shouldn't. We all know it shouldn't be that color. But that's what I grew up. That's what I feel like it's iconic. Is the green one.
I love mint chocolate chip, but I'm also a huge fan of spearmint ice cream, where it has the little mint chunks in the ice. So it's vanilla ice cream with the spearmint, the kaleidoscope type candy broken in there. That's phenomenal to me too.
I really I like the mint chocolate because my husband does not like mint. So it's the only thing I can keep in the house. So part of it is also very strategic on my end.
Does he use just I don't even know what plain toothpaste would be. Do they have other flavors besides mint?
He'll use the mint to the toothpaste, but he will not do anything chocolate mint he has out. So this is my entire strategy of keeping anything sweet in the house. It has to be chocolate and mint so that he won't eat it.
That's fantastic. Favorite type of cake is?
I'm not a big cake person. I know that's weird. I'm not a cake person.
So your answer to this question will be interesting. Is red velvet cake a real flavor, or is it just chocolate cake dressed up to go to the prom?
Oh, it's just fancied up chocolate cake, right? They just pour the color on it, and there's a little maybe cherry in there, I think, but it's just kind of they're just hiding the true.
Before we get hate mail, bakers, I know that there is a difference in red velvet cake. There's alkalized cocoa. I got it, but honestly, if you go to a supermarket and you buy the sheet cake, they just use red food dye in that. They're not making it with alkalized cocoa or anything else. It's chocolate cake dressed up to go to the prom. I don't want any hate mail here. Pie. Are you a pie person?
I do like pie.
Favorite flavor of pie?
I know this is pumpkin pie. I like a good pumpkin pie. It's
Is it
seasonal.
I was going to ask, all year round, or you just wait
No,
till the
I
fall?
do like the seasonal. I do like a good blueberry pie in the summer, right?
Blueberry is so good too.
Yeah, that changes depending on what's in season.
Have you had the pleasure of eating the blueberry pie Oreos?
I have not. I know you
Okay.
are a big Oreo fan.
Oh, and that's number one. Like in their specialty flavor,
Really?
and it's not even close with any of their other flavors. It was so good that I wish that they would make it all year round, and not just make it like a specialty flavor.
What
It
is
tastes like eating a blueberry pie.
Okay.
I kid you not. It literally tastes like eating a blueberry pie. It's wild.
They should have you on as like their marketing team.
I
right?
have been begging them to sponsor me for forever.
How is that not possible? You're like their biggest fan.
I tag them in everything. They've got to be like, there's like an intern at the marketing department that's like, this asshole again. I need Netflix to give me an open checkbook so that I can fly our Everyday Athlete Clubhouse members around for our Party of Five podcast episode. And I need Oreo to also sponsor me so that we can also make sure that we have Oreos on the table at this Party of Five podcast that we do.
You have a strategy. I like it.
Yeah, of course. Everything when it comes to this stuff is strategy. Last question for you. A tray of brownies has come out of the oven. It has cooled enough that you can actually cut it without making a mess out of it. Are you corner piece, edge piece, or center ooey gooey?
Corner piece.
Because?
Oh, I like the crunchy.
Oh, yeah. So does that also mean that you are a corner lasagna piece?
Yeah. I like the little I like the texture kind of interplay, right? You get the little crunchy, but you still need I want to be clear, there needs to be some ooey gooey.
Yes.
Right? You can't just have the corner, but it's
right.
gotta be, you gotta cut it correct. Yep. So it's a really large brownie in my mind, is clearly what I'm saying.
Now, does the brownie have nuts? Are you a fan of nuts in your brownie?
No, but I do like chunks of chocolate.
Okay, so that works. And are you a la moding it? Are you putting ice cream on top of it?
I mean, you don't have to, but nothing is, ice cream can only elevate any dish, right? There's nothing that you can't put ice cream on that you're like, ooh, that's a bad idea. No, just stick the ice cream on there. It'll be better.
You'll always smile when there's ice cream on the plate. Nora, thank you so much for joining me. I really enjoyed our conversation. And thank you for writing the blog post that you have for us folks. Go check it out on runtrimag.com. Nora's got a couple of blog posts up there for you to read where we talk about burnout and how running stress release that impacted Nora specifically. Nora, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. This was great. And thank you for broaching this important topic.
You got it. For those of you that have stuck around for the last hour, I appreciate you. Thank you for your time. Make sure you come back next week to the Everyday Athlete Podcast Network, where we'll have another great guest. We're actually going to be talking to an RD. So we'll get into the carbs and fats and proteins and body images and all of that good stuff for us as endurance athletes. While I have you, be sure to subscribe, rate, and review the Everyday Athlete Podcast Network on your favorite podcast platform. And I will see you again next week. Have a great one, everybody.